get the link up. Okay, links up there on Facebook, so that should be good. Actually, just share that to Raising Vibrations community. So if you can get into the chat and you've got some questions that I can answer for you, please feel free to write there. Let me close that there so that stream's working fine. Okay, I think we're good to go. Postage Raising Vibrations community, everybody's up. Okay. Cool. So, how's everybody experiencing this new moon, by the way? I think what's really, really fascinating, is it actually working? Hold on. There we go. It's actually been really, really intense from my point of view. I feel that Pluto has been heavily involved in this new moon. It's almost kind of created this thing where all of your unresolved emotional stuff that lurks in your psyche is being kind of like pulsated and brought out. And simultaneously, the energy of creative motivation and life force and things that really, really get you amped up are equally as present. And it would make sense for that type of energy to actually be present with us or coming through us at a time when Aries is such a key indicator in what we're doing at the moment, or should I say what the stars are sharing with us at this stage and how we are internally changing along with that. So for me personally, like it will just 3 or 4 hours breaks, and then they would become like tense emotional stuff, and my body would like go into this deep muscle tension, and then I'd have to look at emotional stuff that is existing beneath the surface, bring that up to the surface, heal that type of stuff, or process it or integrate it or whatever it might be, and then it goes away and you're like, yes, and then it's back again like 4 hours later. It's like, what? So I'm actually doing this stream today on one level because I'm kind of like, I love doing these things, so I'm happy about it. It's bringing me joy, but it's also my way of going, I'm taking a break from working with all this inner transmutation stuff and, you know, healing the heart paradigm that we all are embodying at this space. But yeah, so I need to know, can everybody hear me, by the way, in the actual chat? Can you, let me make that screen smaller, that's that way. Hello. Yeah, there we go. You can. So let me just check. So I was also going to talk about the lunar nodes today, as well as somebody in the previous live stream was talking about wanting to know or deepen their relationship towards what the lunar nodes are. So I can speak about that today, but maybe is there a specific thing that you guys want me to maybe start at and then spin off from? Or shall I just like get into the brief description of how you should maybe orientate your consciousness towards, or your perception of astrology towards, lunar nodes, i.e. the karmic nodes in the birth chart? I feel like they're incredibly important to actually understand the lunar nodes in your birth chart, because they offer incredible insight into the nature of your conditioning and what I'd consider to be like the father and the mother wound that we all carry with us, and how our psychology and psyche is actually shaped in accordance with what we desire to do. So Yes. Share with me if there's anything or there's a place that you'd like me to start from. Otherwise, I'll just like start babbling on what lunar nodes are and how to like objectify and understand them in your consciousness and in your chart. Okay, so the chat is getting a little bit warmed up at this stage, which is fantastic. That always helps. I like the interaction with you guys in the community. And I see, yeah, Mandy, that's, yeah, pretty much like energy just comes up to the surface and it's like, okay, release, deal with stuff, ground it back into the physical, grow, and so on and so forth. And it just keeps on doing that way. And what I find interesting about the experience of emotional release and integration is it opens up our capacity to have more maybe empathy. Yeah, the Mars retrograde. That's in the new moon article that I'd recently posted on Facebook and Raising Vibrations. I write a pretty like detailed explanation of Mars retrograde, but I can absolutely, in some way, shape, or form, go over it again. I did also speak about it as well in the most recent live stream when we were talking about retrogrades per se. So there's quite a lot of different places that have maybe some information on it, but I don't mind actually talking about Mars retrograde here again, because I think it's, as I write in the article, I think it's like incredibly important for us to actually understand what Mars retrograde will be doing for us in the next 5 or 4 months that it's going to be doing that. So what's today? It's April. So April, May, June, July. July, maybe it goes direct. So 3 months actually. Okay. So I'm going to check Facebook quickly to see if anybody's there looking at things. Okay. Okay. Show chats. I've really got to find out where that thing is. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to babble on with the lunar nodes to get us all integrated into that at that point. So I'm trying to find a place to begin with regards to lunar nodes. So what the lunar nodes, or should I say, what the moon's nodes, the astrological nodes represent in the birth chart, okay? The way that evolutionary astrology works with it is it does this. It goes, okay, there are these natural laws that consciousness evolves through in the physical plane of existence. So when I mean physical plane of existence, I mean the body and its geometric structure, okay? So what happens is that our world, this dimension, this physical dimension, has a specific natural law to it, and those laws are they're bound by the law of three, right? So this trinity, okay? And to get deep, in fact, what I'm actually doing right now is I'm actually doing the very thing that I believe the Mars retrograde to be, as it starts to manifest itself over the next 3 months, is if we are to truly understand what belief system we use to objectify and understand our earthly reality, we need to be able to have a sense of deep groundedness and sense of emotional integration regarding what that philosophy does for us. And because the kind of like the lunar nodes were in Libra Aries sort of 2.5 or 2 years ago, that it was moving through that, and last year sort of November, if I'm not mistaken, they went into Virgo Pisces. So when the lunar nodes were moving through for 1.5 years through Libra last year and the year before, what they did was they said, hey, we're creating a new direction for us. So therefore, in order for us to have a new direction, we need to be exposed to a diversity of ego structures, perspectives, belief systems, ways of living life, etc., etc. So for many of us, we like read 1,000 articles. We looked at a multitude of ways that we can heal, and all these different perspectives were present with us. But what's happening now is that as the nodes have moved into Virgo Pisces, and of course Jupiter's there as well, we are dealing with how do those perspectives, ideas, thought processes, opinions, other people's versions of how they see reality, etc., how do they work for us personally? Like, how does it influence my life? Okay. And how does it make sense in the relationship to what my current culture and climate is around me? So how does that belief system intertwine with it? So for somebody that has a type of work where their life requires them to be traveling quite a lot, then their essential needs won't be as will be different to, say, somebody that basically stay-at-home mom, for instance, that's working on her emotional integration regarding their children. Okay, so what I'm saying is that the Mars retrograde in itself, in a very lengthy way, is how do we take our belief systems and then really get stuck into them and ask us and basically put us in a situation to ask us the questions, what is relevant and what isn't, so that I can have clarity around what belief systems I need to psychologically and emotionally process for them to be more fruitful for me, for them to be more facilitating of my soul journey. Okay, so as I talk about the lunar nodes today, I can say, okay, the south node in Pisces means this, and the north node in Pisces the north node in Virgo means that. And then what you do is you take that information away and you go, okay, yeah, I've got to try to that's what it means, but we don't actually emotionally integrate it into our psyche and live those archetypes. So we don't have any direct experience and wisdom that is associated with those archetypes. And when the nodes themselves, the lunar nodes themselves, moved into Virgo and Pisces, like I said, at the end of last year, I went on a quest to say that we need to be able to know how to integrate these archetypes as they go in. And I feel like astrology lacks that depth at the moment, because each of us are looking on the internet, having these generic ways of and regurgitating definitions about what they mean, but we're not actually embodying the archetype for us to expand the nature of our consciousness and grow it, and then therefore at the same time allow us to develop wisdom that then can be passed on to our generations, or the younger generations, so that they can then obviously use that energy and that understanding and that sense of how those things work, and yeah, just basically pass it on. I mean, this should be natural law in our cultures, and yet what happens is that due to forces out of our control and many different dark agendas, we have collective amnesia. And so with this collective amnesia that we have regarding the nature of our origins, the nature of what we think reality is, and all this type of stuff, now we're getting into some deep stuff here. We tend to not question the deeper aspects of our reality. And of course, as you know, Mars and but Uranus and Pluto and Scorpio, Saturn, those three players that have been, moving over some really powerful points over the last 4 years, and how you've experienced these shakeups, have given us this new opportunity to objectify the nature of reality and then emotionally integrate it into our lives and process it, so that we can have fundamental wisdom as well as understanding, versus just a mental identification that makes us feel safe, but yet it lacks depth. So as I take my little string of consciousness and I bring it back to the original point of lunar nodes, and also encompassing your question about what does the Mars retrograde mean, it's giving us an opportunity to go back on the nature of our philosophies that we use to objectify our reality, and then at the same time ask the question, is this practically viable for me? Does that belief system that I use about something happen for me? Like, I have numerology, I have astrology, and I have something else. And I use all of them, and they give me these realities, but do any of them actually give me a sense of what I'm actually looking for? And so by asking those deeper questions regarding your relationship to things and how that philosophy or core belief system that you use is facilitating that. So again, like I said, how does it allow your essential needs and sense of security and relationship to those things? How do they work out? That's what I would say Mars retrograde is essentially for now. Because once Mars goes direct again and it goes, out of Scorpio again for the final time, and, Jupiter's finished its kind of cycle there in Virgo, we're going to have to go back out into the world when Jupiter hits Libra, and we're going to be looking for our tribe again. And that's when I think the real Saturn and Sagittarius stuff starts. I still think that we're dealing with the reverberations of Saturn ending Scorpio cycle. And most of us are dealing with the uprooting of belief systems that we hold that will naturally be in conflict with what we know to be true right now. I mean, this is fascinating when you really think about it. If you take, for instance, Saturn moving through Scorpio, it does this transit every 29 years. So, of course, what naturally happens in this process is that we have a new consciousness upgrade. And so, therefore, the next sign that Saturn will move into will naturally have a conflict with the previous sign, because the sign that it was in, i.e. Saturn in Scorpio, meeting Saturn Sag, the belief systems will be outdated in comparison to what you now know the core sense of desire is about. And it's the same as the belief systems that will be upgraded during Saturn and Sagittarius will be moving into Capricorn. When Saturn moves into Capricorn, it'll be like, these structures don't support our belief systems. So we need to kind of like tear those structures down. So it's really, really interesting and fascinating to watch how consciousness upgrades itself as these transits go along, and how we respond to outdated structures in relationship to newly formed like ideas and identities and changes and shifts in perspective. So again, coming back to the lunar nodes themselves, the law of three would be intrinsic to the astrology chart. It's key, because we're dealing with the structure of reality in a physical dimension. The geometric sacred geometry in itself shows you how the mathematical algorithms work for life to manifest. Okay. So past, present, future. Therefore, you have the south node of the astrology chart. You objectify that using the upside down horseshoe. You look at the moon in your astrology chart, and you look at the north node. Okay. And then you draw this correlation between past, present, future. So past would represent the south node. The north node would represent a point in space that reflects potentiality. And the moon would show you how you integrate the two. Okay. So here's the south node. Here's the north node, two abstract points in space. And then you have the middle point. If everybody can stop for a second and observe your breath, you notice how there's a inhalation and then exhalation. And then there's a point that it transitions between exhale and inhale. That would be the natal planets of your birth chart. Okay, that's really, really cool to understand. That transition between the past and the future is what your natal chart is. So it does reflect to you the response that you have in your life based on previous definitions, but it also does reflect the potentiality of how you can move in a new direction. And the natal chart will reflect to you how much tension you carry regarding past and future, or what has already occurred and what can be possibly and potentially available for you in every moment. So specifically speaking, the moon itself will tell you how you transition. So I have the south node in Sagittarius, I have the north node in Gemini, and I also have the moon in Gemini. So in my case, when you objectify the nature of the chart, you'll actually see that my north node needs to be actualized in this lifetime. And so the moon actually lands on that north node, saying the way that you integrate your north node is by understanding your self-identity. And when you are understanding your self-identity, then you are in your north node. That's when you're actually participating in your evolution. And it's super cool because that kind of like allows me to naturally do my north node. The irony of the situation, or paradox, is that my soul has rejected that thing so much that it needed to actually overcompensate and put that moon over there, which is, and I can feel it. I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier regarding this like new moon brings all this emotional tension to the surface, and it's like, deal with all of this unresolved stuff, Simon. And it's like, okay, fantastic. So what is it? Unactualized dreams. Follow your heart. Understand your individuality. Don't let other people's belief systems superimpose them over yourself. Fine. So that response to that reality in itself is that moon on that north node going, okay, I need to do this. I need to bring this new direction out. I can't like allow that to not manifest. But the tension there is incredible because the soul has had so much resistance to it in the past for whatever majority of reasons. So does everybody understand the Trinity, past, present, future? Understand that to understand the nature of change in your life, you have to understand what has occurred, what is potentially available for you, and how you interlink the two together. They have to be in that state. So again, the South Node in the first house, not the South Node in the first house, the South Node will then now reflect to you a kind of incubator, okay? An incubator that you will use to precondition yourself that, yes, that's true. Saturn in the South Node has a direct correlation. Yep. Okay, so let me do this again. So the South Node will reflect what? It will reflect the types of themes that will be present in your life as you're growing up. These themes will then condition the way that you perceive reality. That will be how you are tuned to it. So somebody with like a South Node in Sagittarius, for example, will naturally be somebody coming from a lifetime in which there will be in some way, shape or form an uncle or parents or something that will reflect pursuit for higher knowledge, higher consciousness, somebody that lives in natural law, somebody that maybe grows up in a place that has limited access to like society, like in the woods type of thing. Again, nature, Sagittarius. And what will happen is that your pre-existing relationship to your life will come from the themes and understandings and wisdoms that are passed down to you. And that South Node contains all of it. Then, to make it more individual for yourself, you have to then also look at the planet, or should I say the sign that rules your South Node. So in my case, I have I have the South Node in Sagittarius. So that implies that I need to look to Jupiter in the astrology chart. And what Jupiter does is then it shows you individual context, okay? So an example that I could give you. South Node in Sagittarius in the first house as an example, okay? Then I look to Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter is in the 8th house something. What? So Sag, therefore that must be Leo. So 8th house Leo, okay? This means that specifically these three layers. South Node soul comes into this lifetime with a pre-orientation around answering its own questions. So it's actually kind of interesting because in this experience, this soul could actually come in where they're an only child, or they could come in where only child relating to the focus solely on the child, first house, and that the soul would actually have two parents that would be very strong and individuated and would probably give the soul the capacity to say, what belief system do you choose? Okay, making the choice of what I believe, South Node first house Sagittarius, my way of answering my own questions. And then it's Jupiter in the 8th house, Leo, would say that my sense of belief systems in the past reflects maybe deep intimacy issues around creative self-actualization. So creative self-actualization is a Leo thing. The 8th house correlates to intimacy and the sense of where my boundaries are, my limitations, etc. And maybe even lifetimes of abandonment regarding feeling like my sense of special destiny or purpose, it can be actualized. So this can be somebody that could actually come into this lifetime and that answers their own questions and is really, really good at following a belief system, but has the psychological feeling like if they're actually actualized themselves, there could be a deep abandonment. Okay, and that's how you would synthesize the three together. And it's fascinating because you'd actually watch a person with those symbols show up in their real life and have these psychological attachments to believing that they could possibly be abandoned and so on and so forth. So it's really, really interesting to note how this works and how deep this stuff can actually go. So what I'm encouraging everybody to recognize at this point is that if you are interested in looking at your nodal axis, it's not as simple as just saying to yourself that you have to, okay, so here's an example, okay? This, Anna Woodward, okay, you said that you had the South Node in Pisces, okay? And you had the North Node in Scorpio. South Node in Pisces, North Node in Scorpio. Is that not, the North Node must be in Virgo. So I'm assuming that the North Node's in Virgo in that case, or alternatively the South Node's in Taurus, which I feel is not really sure. So if you can clarify that for me, that would be great. Does anybody else have another example that I could maybe use to answer for you? Okay, the South Node in South Node in Virgo, yeah? Okay, and also, is everybody following me at this point in time in terms of what I'm talking about? Yeah, 365 days of transformation. I'm not surprised that you're lost or feeling lost. I mean, Neptune in the first house can absolutely feel like you have lived lifetimes of complete chaos. So I'm not surprised that you could possibly have had lifetimes where you have psychological or psychic wounding around chaos. Okay, so let's use Anna Woodward's example. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. The moon's in Aquarius, your south node's in Pisces, and your north node's in Virgo. So already we're looking at the south node in Pisces. Whenever you have souls come into this lifetime with the south node in Pisces or Virgo Pisces axis in any way whatsoever, there's incredibly strong religious conditioning. So I know for a fact in some deep way, you probably deal with a lot of like feelings of being persecuted, feelings of overwhelmedness. Sometimes chaos can get you to a point where you feel there's a sense of being lost or maybe over-controlledness. And if you deepen your sense of relationship towards that over-controlledness, you feel that there's a feeling of lack that you have in you, all these types of things. So what we're showing you here is that this comes from heavy patriarchal conditioning, a lot of religious and sort of searching for God. Virgo Pisces axis will always reflect that because the nature of something that is unity will be Pisces, and of course the how to be of service to that process is Virgo. So you're already going to come into that with some psychic relationship to those things, and your parents in some way, shape or form would have reflected that to you when you were growing up. So a lot of your healing has got to do with, working through those feelings of one step at a time, not feeling that you need to have control over everything all the time, and that also you can be more compassionate and accepting of some of the flaws that you might carry as you move ahead, and that everything is about becoming perfect and that it is not perfect, if that makes any sense, the difference between the two. So in your case, you would have South Node there. Now, where is the South Node you said is in Pisces, so where is your Neptune? Okay, need to know where your Neptune is in your chart. Now, if anybody manifests their moon in Aquarius, you're looking at a soul that is coming into this lifetime with two possible things. One, the need to individuate your emotional reality. Okay, so this can be a soul that you really need to objectify your emotions. You really need to objectify the sense of identity that you have. And it's important for you to not follow the kind of like consensus way of doing things. And I suspect that you do that rebelling thing anyway. And it's important that you honor that process. The moon, as it interfaces with Virgo Pisces, will naturally ask you to break any form of conditioning associated with religion, or any form of spiritual practice that in some way, shape or form has Yeah, Neptune and Scorpio. So you're a Pluto and Virgo generation, if I'm not mistaken. I'm born between 1957 and 1972. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that the moon will then ask you to objectify your emotional reality, i.e., to look at it from this perspective and say, are these my emotions? Are this another person's emotions? And allow yourself to break away from all the psychological conditioning associated with religion. And I don't mean like religion in terms of Bible. I'm talking about what we consider to be God. And how do we come to the understanding that God is this way and that he is defined by some existential savior? Okay. Any soul that has Neptune in Scorpio in itself will reflect the need to commit to their spirituality. And the way that that will come up in your life is through situations of almost as if like intense loss. And that intense loss will reflect this deep need to trust in something that's above and outside your control, deepening your sense of relationship to the source, i.e. Pisces. Okay, polarity point of Virgo is Pisces. Okay, so as you can see with Anna's chart, also she has the North Node in Pisces, if I'm not Virgo, pardon me, which means that your North Node actually conjuncts your Pluto as well, or in a very close proximity to your Pluto. So I would actually follow and observe and understand the nature of your Pluto in your chart really, really deeply, because by understanding that, you then are able to access the soul's actual desires in this lifetime. And the node itself, in other words, the North Node itself, is saying this is the potential for your empowerment in this lifetime. So be very, very careful to look at the South Node as, I don't know how to put this across, to walk away from your South Node, because you can't. So you have to integrate your Pluto into your North Node. So your Pluto and your North Node must be understood simultaneously. And when they're understood simultaneously, then you will be able to resolve the karmic complexities that your soul comes in with this lifetime. Okay? Which is interesting because your Pluto rules your Neptune. Therefore, Pluto rules the South Node ruler. Okay? So I'm going to try and make this more clear. South Node and whatever sign that's in. So in Anna's case, she had the South Node in Pisces. Therefore, pardon me, I was completely wrong there, Anna. Your North Node is actually ruled by Mercury, not the Neptune, which I'll talk about that now. So coming back to this clarity thing again, write this down. The South Node. So if the South Node is in Sagittarius, you then look to Jupiter. I can actually go around the zodiac for everybody so that you have a clear here. Let's do this. Okay. If the South Node is in the first house, or if the South Node is in Aries, particularly, or in Aries, you look to Mars. Okay. If you have the South Node in Taurus, then you look to Venus. If you have the South Node in Gemini, you look to Mercury. If you have the South Node in Cancer, you look to the Moon. If you have the South Node in Leo, you look to the Sun. If you have the South Node in Virgo, you look to Mercury again. If you have South Node in Libra, you look to Venus. If you have the South Node in Scorpio, you look to Pluto. If you have the South Node in Sagittarius, you look to Jupiter. If you have the South Node in Capricorn, you look to Saturn. If you have the South Node in Aquarius, you look to Uranus in the chart. And finally, if you have the South Node in Pisces, you look to Neptune. And it's the same thing going with the North Nodes, okay? So does everybody understand that? North Node in Aries means Mars, okay? So, Trinity, South Node ruler, okay? And then the Moon. So in my case, I have the South Node in Sagittarius, and I actually have Jupiter in the 11th house. So my South Node comes into this lifetime where I objectify the nature of my belief systems, objectify Aquarius, individuate my belief systems, Aquarius interfacing with Sagittarius, and then my Moon is in the 5th house, Gemini, so I then take creative expression and I communicate the unique belief systems that I have. Does that make sense? And so when I embody those emotions and I embody those realities, then I actually create soul awareness. I actually create the momentum that the soul is intending to move into this lifetime. So everybody that has your south node ruler, and your moon, if you can spend a month just constantly every single day embodying those symbols, then you'll actually start to notice how your life will actually start to shift radically, because you'll start to look at things that you would usually say as, that's what I'm capable of doing, and change it and say, nope, I'm going to go this way. Or my north node or my south node ruler says that I should be paying more attention to that. And so therefore I'm going to embody that more, as an example. I can't be too specific because of course everybody has their own realities to the situation. So I'm kind of being very generalized in what I'm saying here. But I hope that everybody gets the overall basic template that you need to integrate into your life to understand the nodes themselves, okay? All right. So that's really, really essential and important. Otherwise, we're just running around doing our daily chores in the mundane world and not actually authentically bringing our soul to the surface, because we're not actually consciously activating its energy. We're just like lying dormant. We're facilitating cycles of things that we need to do. Does that make sense? Okay. So there's quite a lot here. So South Node in Aries in the 12th house, North Node in Libra in the 6th, and the Moon 0 degrees Pisces in the 11th. So we already know South Node in Aries in the 12th house. This is kind of a cool thing because, again, South Node in Aries goes, I need to individuate myself and go new directions. I need to just explore. And it's in the 12th house, so the soul already comes into this lifetime with this kind of karmic relationship towards being overpowered. So the soul wants to use the Aries energy, or Mars, wherever it is in the chart, to be able to actualize that South Node thing. What was it specifically about that Mars energy in your chart that would tell you that that 12th house is operating through? So 12th house, come into this lifetime, I have to surrender myself, I don't have any control, and that sucks. So South Node in Aries tells me how to get that working. Again, the Moon in Pisces will tell you straight away that there's this need for dissolving, this need for connectivity and unifying stuff. North Node in Libra, again, the soul needs to come into this lifetime and show up. It needs to heal itself. It needs to heal others. It needs to do the work. It needs to bring itself more into the body. Okay? Let's see what else we've got here. And then again, see Mars in Taurus, bringing itself back into the body, conjunct Venus. And I think that was a new phase conjunction as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like a new relationship towards your boundaries, how boundaries operate, what is me, what is you, how do I create psychic boundaries between myself and other people, and how does that give me clarity and not just merge into other people and lose my sense of self-identity. Okay, South Node in Aquarius 3rd house, Uranus in the 12th house, Moon conjunct the North Node. Okay, so that's Delphine Willis, if I'm right. So that's cool. South Node in the 3rd house, Aquarius. So the soul wants to come into this lifetime, and it is working on what? Okay, let's have a look over here. South Node in 3rd house, Aquarius. So the soul's already coming to this lifetime where it's valuing other people's opinions, thoughts, ideas. It values intellect. Communication is essentially important. And then the Aquarius overlay says this is coming through with a sense of what makes me different, what makes me unique, and how do my opinions separate myself from everybody else around me. And sometimes there can be even a sense of elitism around my opinions are very better than yours, and that's not egotistical. It just says that, you know, Aquarius is about Promethean stuff. So your essential thoughts and ideas and communication is to make you unique, but also to expand our consciousness around breaking the norms. So Uranus in the 12th house will tell me that the soul is actually looking to dissolve the barriers regarding its own way of objectifying its reality. So an example that I could use is you learn, say, for instance, a way of communicating that makes you really unique. But the problem is it creates a barrier between you and other people. So you would want to dissolve that sense of barrier that it creates between you and other people, so that when you communicate, you can actually feel integrated and not alienated. So Moon conjunct the North Node, again, in my case, is to actualize that North Node, and you will naturally come into this lifetime doing it anyway. Okay? So what are the conjunctions like, e.g. North Node conjunct Pluto? Again, if the North Node is conjunct Pluto, it's incredibly important that, well, the soul in this lifetime is moving forward with its evolution. The problem is that you don't know that you're evolving in this lifetime because your sense of identity regarding empowerment is in some way, shape, or form not identified as the future. So your soul in past lives has already been working on its Pluto. It's already been working on its desires. You don't need to go in a different direction. Just follow your soul's desires. Just what am I desiring, and that will be your path. Okay, but the problem is because the North Node's there, nobody shows you how to do it. So you see everybody else being empowered, but not yourself, and you keep on trying to get other people to be empowering or to get you empowered. But really, what you're trying to say is that I don't know how to empower myself, so I'm going to look at everybody else. So my thing to you is spend some time reflecting upon the nature of your desires and what they mean for you, and then just allow those natural desires to be the reflection of your sense of empowerment. Okay, so let's have a look over here as well. Okay. Jamie Troy says South Node on Leo in the 6th house, Sun in Taurus 2nd house, North Node Aquarius, Moon. Okay, South Node in Leo in the 6th tells me already that the soul in this lifetime is coming in with deep feelings of criticism regarding what it is self-validation. So I would already start working on healing your sense of feeling that you are good at what you can do, and also validating your inner capacity to feel your sense of value and worth. Okay, so it's like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I feel I'm good at, and this is how I will show up in this lifetime being really good at it. But there's these deep feelings of shame or guilt, maybe associated with not being able to know how to do that correctly. So first, heal that type of stuff regarding being really, really comfortable and competent in what you feel you're good at, okay? And then how to create balance with that process is, so the North Node is in Aquarius. Let's have a look here. North Node Aquarius, Moon in Aries, Uranus Capricorn, 11th house. Okay, let me read that correctly. North Node in Aquarius, the Moon in Aries, Uranus in Capricorn in the 11th, and I take it that okay, so the Moon's in Aries, which means that in this lifetime, you're needing to be very independent and actualized. Like this is what I could say to you without using those symbols. You need to, in this lifetime, bring yourself into alignment with what you desire to be your greatest gifts. And if you are bringing yourself into alignment with that, you'll actually notice that you'll find yourself doing really, really independent stuff of everybody else, and not feeling that you need another person to validate your sense of greatness, but you actually, right. So no, Moon's not in Aries. Okay, so let's have a read again. North Node, Moon, North Node in Aquarius. Is the Moon also on your North Node as well? Okay, just Moon in Aquarius. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense actually, to be honest. Moon in Aquarius. Okay. Right, I mean, your North Node is in the 12th house, Aquarius. I get that. Yep, I understand that now. Uranus is in Capricorn in the 11th. Okay, I think I got it. So, South Node in 6th house Leo, creative self-actualization through self-improvement. I'm good at what I can do. I trust myself, and every single day I'm going to be getting better at it. Sun's in Taurus, so the need to creatively self-actualize through what you value and how much self-worth you bring with that process. Then you have, so then the North Node will be in 12th house, of course, and it will be in Aquarius. So you're coming into this lifetime where you're learning how to attach your sense of special destiny with what you can offer the world, okay, and what you can link with the group. So what does the group want, and how can you bring your dreams to what the group needs, and how it can help the group in some way, shape, or form. So a great way that I could help you out with that would be saying, here's a group, here's like, we want to construct something. and everybody is a specialist in their field, and what you're trying to learn is how to integrate yourself into that group where your skills are individuated, that they are specific to you, and that when you are integrating into that group, it shows your individuality in that way. Okay? All right. So there's quite a lot of people showing up with their moons and stuff like that. I don't actually have any time left, guys. So I'm going to have to end this live stream at this point in time. But what I do actually have is the chat still up. So at some point when I start the stream next week, I will be able to maybe continue from some of those questions, and also whatever theme comes up for me next week as well, okay? So thanks everybody for showing up. I truly appreciate it. I really hope that you got something out of today's discussion, even if it was just like really, really random. And yeah, just feel free to post any questions in the comments when this video is actually uploaded, and I will just create the themes around this and have these live streams, okay? The last thing that I actually want to just tell everybody before I go is, if you are interested in what I have created, it's called the Soul Alignment and Empowerment course. It actually starts tomorrow. It's this week, Saturday, or should I say it's not starting tomorrow. That one's full already. But if you are interested in something that I've created, it's called the Soul Alignment and Empowerment course. And what it essentially is a 2-week workshop. So 2 days of 2 hours long. And it talks about how your astrology is interfacing with your psychology. So just recently, I launched a video called Soul Empowerment, and it talked about the brain structure. So everybody knows about the brainstem, the limbic system, and the prefrontal cortex, okay, as well as the neocortex in itself. And what I'm doing is I'm taking how the brain responds to life, and I'm correlating it to the chart. So somebody, for instance, that has like a strong Uranus signature in your chart will probably have most likely a very damaged prefrontal cortex. And the reason why that's the case is because a lot of the time Uranus correlates to shock. And in order to create the shock, we need to have, in some way, shape, or form, a relationship to our reality that's very unstable. So our limbic system in itself has probably created neurological pathways within your brain that tells you that you're not safe. So this is just one way of just an example. There are many different dimensions and realities to this thing, and this is incredibly fascinating. So if you are interested in wanting to know how your astrology links up with the way that your brain interfaces with reality on a physical dimension and how to heal that process, then in the chat I'm going to actually post the link to what you can actually learn from this experience. And I would also encourage everybody to, let's just do this over here. Okay. There we go. I'm going to post it in the chat. Okay, so I posted in the chat. Go check that out. Okay. Like I said, the first class is already full up, but I will be launching new dates really, really shortly. So if you're interested in this, just send me an email saying, hey, I'm really super interested in this, and I'd like to participate. And I will then be able to set you up and give you all the links necessary to join this experience. And I think it'll be really, really fascinating as well to get a deeper understanding of how your brain responds to your reality and how your astrology has conditioned it that way. Okay? Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will speak to you very shortly with Chart of the Day, okay? Take care, guys. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.